All right, guys. Today we're practicing converting linear equations. Well, we have three types of linear equations, right? Three different forms. There's standard form, ax plus by equals c. Slope-intercept form, the one we most use, probably right. Y equals mx plus b because m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And point slope form, right? Point slope form tells us a point in our equation and it tells us the slope, right? Slope is m. And the point, remember, it's minus, it's always the opposite of x and the opposite of y. Okay. But today we're practicing converting between our forms. So in points, to go from point slope form to slope intercept, well, you notice the difference in point slope, I need to isolate y. So I need to get this y by itself. All right. And also, I don't have any parentheses. So our first step is we're going to distribute and then remove this value over. So, all right. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 5 is 15. So now to isolate y, well, I got to add 4, right? Well, I don't add 4 to x. I got to add 4 to my other constant. So y equals 3x plus 19. Well, that was pretty easy. So again, I distribute. So 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. All right, so now I multiply by the top and divide by the bottom. 12 times 2 is 24, divided by 3 is 8. So now to isolate y, I do the inverse, so I minus 2, and I get 2/3 x minus 10. All right, so point slope to slope intercept, well, that's easy, right? We distribute, get rid of our parentheses, and we move our number to the other side. So now to go from standard to slope intercept, well, in standard, I have x's and y's in the left, but slope intercept, I need to isolate my y. So our first step is always, I got to move my x's to the opposite side. All right, so get rid of 3x, well, I got to subtract 3x from both sides. So this negative 4y is all that's left over here, right? We did the inverse. Well, I didn't have any x's here. Assumption. So it's negative 3x minus 8. Remember, if it's positive 3x, when we flip it to the other side, well, now it's negative 3x. So our first step is always, I got to move my x to the opposite side. All right, when I move it to the opposite, I got to flip it. It becomes the opposite. When I flip sides, I got to flip signs. So now I need to isolate y. So I have to divide by the coefficient. So I divide everything by negative 4. Well, negative 3 divided by negative 4. Well, I can't divide 3 by 4, but since they're both negative, that's positive 3/4 x. Well, negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2. Okay, so we move our x over, divide by the coefficient. So we move our x over. Now I got to divide everything by 2. Well, I can't divide x by 2, right? But again, if it's negative x, that means it's negative 1. So negative 1 over 2, that's negative 1/2 x. All right, we divide the first part by 2. And the second part, negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. All right, so again, to get from standard to slope intercept, we move our x to the opposite side, divide by the coefficient. Move our x to the opposite side, divide by the coefficient. Okay, so the one that sometimes can be a little trickier is slope intercept to standard, just because not every problem is the exact same, right? These are the exact same. Distribute, move it over. Distribute, move it over. Move it over, divide. Move it over, divide. Then slope intercept, the first step's always the same, but then like sometimes some of them have extra steps or not. Well, again, to be in standard form, I need x's and y's on the left. So I gotta move my x value to the opposite side. If it's negative 5/2 x, so I gotta add 5/2 x to both sides. But again, if it's negative when I flip it now, it's positive. 5 over 2x plus y equals negative 6. All right. So again, now I have x's, y's equal constants. We're good. My a value is positive. That's good. But I can't have a denominator, right? I can't have a denominator. So we got to multiply this entire equation by 2 to eliminate our denominator. All right, so now it's 5x plus 2y equals negative 12. All right, because 5 times 5 over 2. 2 times 5 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. 2 times y is 2y. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Okay, so again, it's kind of the same thing. We always, first step is I got to move my x to the opposite side. So if it's positive 3x, when I flip it now, it's negative 3x plus y equals 5. Okay, so I got x's, then y's equal constants. Good. No fractions, no decimals. Good. But I can't have a negative. If my x value is negative, remember I got to multiply my entire equation by -1, because then that flips it and makes it positive. X has to be positive. -1 times negative 3x makes it positive 3x. -1 makes it minus y. -1 times 5 makes it -5. All right. So again, slope-intercept to standard is probably the most difficult just because not everyone's the exact same. They had the same first step. I got to move my x to the opposite side. But then I got to stop and think, all right, I can't have a negative x, and I can't have any fractions or decimals. All right, guys, good luck. You got this.